In 1492, Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer funded by the Spanish crown, embarked on a daring voyage. Columbus aimed to find a westward route to Asia, seeking a faster and more profitable trade route for spices and other valuable goods. However, his calculations were off, and instead of reaching Asia, he stumbled upon a new world, the Americas. This momentous discovery would forever alter the course of history, marking the beginning of European colonization of the Americas.
We have reached land, but this is not Asia. It is something entirely new.
Columbus's arrival in the Caribbean, which he mistook for the East Indies, sparked a wave of European exploration and exploitation. The Spanish, driven by a thirst for gold, glory, and the desire to spread Christianity, quickly established a presence in the region. They encountered diverse indigenous populations, each with its own unique culture, language, and way of life. The Taino people, who inhabited the Caribbean islands, were among the first to interact with the Spanish.
This new land holds great promise. We must seize the opportunity.
Columbus's voyages, while significant, were just the tip of the iceberg. His discovery paved the way for a much larger and more consequential wave of European exploration and conquest. The Spanish, followed by other European powers, would soon establish a dominant presence in the Americas, forever changing the lives of its indigenous inhabitants. The encounter between these two worlds, so vastly different in culture, technology, and beliefs, would have far-reaching consequences, both positive and negative, that continue to shape the world today. This clash of civilizations led to both the enrichment and destruction of cultures, the exchange of ideas and diseases, and the displacement and exploitation of entire populations. The conquest of America is a complex and often brutal chapter in human history, one that demands careful examination and understanding. In 1519, Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador with a small army, landed on the coast of what is now Mexico. Driven by ambition and the promise of gold, Cortés set his sights on the heart of the Aztec Empire, a sophisticated civilization centered in the Valley of Mexico.
We must move swiftly. The riches of this empire will be ours.
The Aztecs, ruled by Moctezuma II, were a powerful empire with a complex social structure, advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, and a rich religious tradition. They had built their empire through military prowess and a system of tribute from conquered peoples. Cortés, despite his relatively small force, recognized an opportunity to exploit internal divisions within the Aztec Empire. He formed alliances with indigenous groups who resented Aztec rule, most notably the Tlaxcalans, who saw the Spanish as a way to overthrow their oppressors.
These strangers, they bring gifts, but their intentions are unclear.
Cortés's expedition, aided by superior weaponry, including muskets and cannons, and aided by European diseases that ravaged the indigenous population, marched on Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. The Spanish were initially welcomed by Moctezuma, who mistook Cortés for a returning god, but tensions soon escalated, leading to the Aztec emperor's capture and death. The fall of Tenochtitlan in 1521 marked the end of the once mighty Aztec Empire, paving the way for Spanish dominion over central Mexico. The conquest of the Aztecs was a pivotal moment in the colonization of the Americas. It demonstrated the effectiveness of Spanish military tactics, the impact of disease in decimating indigenous populations, and the role of indigenous alliances in facilitating European conquest. The fall of the Aztec Empire would have a profound and lasting impact on the cultural, political, and demographic landscape of Mexico and the broader Americas. Following the conquest of the Aztecs, the Spanish turned their attention southward to the Inca Empire, the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Francisco Pizarro, a Spanish conquistador inspired by Cortés's success, led an expedition to conquer the Incas in 1532. The Inca Empire, stretching along the Andes Mountains in South America, possessed vast wealth in gold and silver, which fueled Spanish ambition.
The riches of the Incas will surpass even those of the Aztecs.
Pizarro arrived in Peru at a time of internal strife within the Inca Empire. A civil war between the sons of the previous Inca emperor, Huayna Capac, had weakened the empire, making it vulnerable to Pizarro's advances. Exploiting this division, Pizarro captured the Inca emperor Atahualpa at the Battle of Cajamarca. Despite receiving a massive ransom in gold, Pizarro executed Atahualpa, further destabilizing the empire. The Spanish, with their superior weaponry and aided by indigenous allies who had grown resentful of Inca rule, marched on Cusco, the Inca capital, capturing the city in 1534. The fall of Cusco marked the beginning of the end for the Inca Empire. Despite fierce resistance from some Inca strongholds, the Spanish gradually consolidated their control over the Andean region, establishing a colonial presence that would last for centuries. The conquest of the Inca Empire, like that of the Aztecs, was a brutal affair marked by violence, betrayal, and the exploitation of indigenous peoples and resources. The fall of these great empires had a devastating impact on indigenous populations, leading to the decline of their cultures, the loss of their lands, and the imposition of new social, political, and economic systems. The arrival of the Spanish in the Americas had catastrophic consequences for the indigenous populations. European diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which Native Americans had no immunity, spread like wildfire, decimating entire communities. The death toll from disease is estimated to have been in the tens of millions, far exceeding the number of deaths caused by warfare. The Spanish conquest also led to the enslavement and forced labor of indigenous peoples. The encomienda system, a system of forced labor granted to Spanish colonists, exploited Native Americans for their labor in mines and on plantations. This system, while officially abolished in the 17th century, continued in various forms, contributing to the exploitation and marginalization of indigenous communities. Millions of Native Americans were forced to work in brutal conditions, often dying from overwork, malnutrition, or disease. This brutal system of labor extraction enriched the Spanish crown and fueled the growth of the transatlantic slave trade. The conquest also led to the destruction of indigenous cultures and ways of life. The Spanish, seeking to impose their own beliefs and values, suppressed indigenous religions, burned their sacred texts, and forced conversions to Christianity. This cultural genocide had a devastating impact on indigenous communities, leading to the loss of their traditions, languages, and identities.